Y&R Spoilers reveal a night as dramatic and chaotic as Nikki's birthday party. Every look, every mood seems to be sucked into a vortex of secret intrigue and unnamed insecurity. But it seems that the party is just a flashy shell to cover up a series of dark plans and conspiracies that are secretly ignited, the ultimate consequences of which could sink many fates, including Kyle Abbott, who seems to be on the thin line between life and death. Long before the party began, Adam Newman and Chelsea Lawson agreed to create the perfect scenario to create the biggest distraction possible. They knew that Victor Newman, a man who always believed he had everything in his hands, was planning to launch a merciless smear campaign against Billy Abbott. If Victor succeeded, not only Billy but also those close to him would be caught up in the scandal. That's why Adam and Chelsea have to come up with a new scandal, serious and sensational enough to divert all attention from their revenge plan against Billy, while also putting Victor on the defensive. They discuss for hours how to fabricate fake evidence, from leaked emails to doctored photos, and statements from surrounding figures who can be easily bought overnight. Things get even more dangerous when Aristotle Dumas, the so-called hidden kingpin of takeovers and coups, officially enters the game. Dumas does not come to the party as a regular guest. Behind his cold eyes is an underground network, where calculations always exceed the expectations of his opponents. People still whisper to each other that every time Dumas appears, there will be a shocking shock that will permanently change the balance of power in Genoa City. Tonight, Dumas had a single goal: to control all the backroom information of the Abbott family, while quietly searching for Victor Newman's fatal weakness. No one knew exactly where he would attack, but the echoes of his silent threats made the atmosphere of the party stifling and suffocatingly tense. Meanwhile, inside the Abbott mansion, another family meeting was taking place with no less drama. Tracy Abbott, who had always been considered the kind soul of the Abbott family, spent a lot of time considering the plan to renovate the ancient mansion. Diane Jenkins Abbott, with the mindset of someone who had just been recognized as an indispensable part of the extended family, anxiously awaited Tracy's approval. This approval was not only a decision to rebuild the house, but also a symbol of the revival of relationships, trust, and tolerance within the Abbott family. As expected, Tracy finally agreed, as a pledge that old wounds were ready to be healed to move towards a new future. However, that peaceful picture was immediately broken by Ashley Abbott. Although she appeared to support the renovation, Ashley could not hide her restlessness and secrets. She met Jack Abbott, and it was here that Ashley revealed a big news that completely surprised Jack. She had just discovered some documents related to the company's shady investment, and the person behind it was none other than one of his longtime trusted associates. Jack realized that the Abbott family might be facing a financial conspiracy on a much larger scale than the previous attacks by Victor or any other competitor. They were forced to act quickly if they did not want the entire Abbott business to collapse overnight. While the adults in the Abbott household were preoccupied with their own concerns, Phyllis Summers was quietly preparing for a risky move. Phyllis had long harbored the idea of meeting Aristotle Dumas, hoping to negotiate or at least learn his true intentions for Genoa City. However, things did not go as smoothly as she had anticipated. Phyllis's flight to D.C. with Amanda Sinclair only added to the pressure and anxiety for both of them. On the flight, Amanda received text messages warning of Dumas' new moves and immediately understood that any slip-up could be exploited and blown up into a shocking scandal. Upon arriving in D.C., Phyllis tried to contact Dumas, but was immediately blocked by Carter, Dumas's powerful and extremely secretive assistant. Carter was known as the gatekeeper, never allowing anyone to approach Dumas without being carefully screened. Carter's every look and every gesture showed absolute coldness and a high level of alertness. Phyllis knew that if she could not get past Carter, any attempt to approach Dumas would fail from the start. Therefore, she had to find a way to impress or break the strong defense barrier of this assistant. Amidst all the hidden intrigue and the extremely tense atmosphere, the biggest disaster suddenly happened at the party. The place that everyone had expected to be an occasion for reconciliation and reunion. Aristotle Dumas, after secretly observing every move, suddenly released unexpected shocks. A series of secret information about secret transactions, illegal money, and dangerous connections between opposing forces were successively announced at the event. A series of businessmen, politicians, and even influential members of the Abbott family were like being doused with cold water when their names appeared on the big screen in the middle of the hall. Panic prevailed, fearful whispers echoed in every corner, while the media immediately rushed in, pushing the atmosphere to chaos. Kyle Abbott, who was shouldering a series of expectations and pressure from his family, suddenly became the direct target in this series of scandals. The personal secrets that had been hidden, the mistakes of the past that Kyle thought were buried, were now dug up and exposed mercilessly. Under the fierce attack of the media and psychological pressure, Kyle almost completely collapsed. Many people around him panicked, trying to stop the news from leaking out, but it was too late. A few screams rang out when people discovered Kyle collapsed in the middle of the hall. It was unclear whether it was due to psychological shock or someone had taken action in the chaotic crowd. The entire party turned into an emergency, rescue forces were immediately dispatched, and the Abbott family was almost paralyzed in pain and horror. In another development, Adam and Chelsea, although successful in creating a distraction to save Billy from Victor's direct attack, also faced the risk of being discovered and retaliated against. Victor never lets anyone cross him, and he begins to suspect the strange coincidence between the new scandal and Adam and Chelsea's shady actions before. Meanwhile, Billy is temporarily saved from danger, but has a strong feeling that this is just the calm before a bigger storm is coming. After all, the party that was supposed to be a place for reconciliation turns into a new battlefield for a series of opposing forces. Behind-the-scenes stories, exposed secrets, and the appearance of Aristotle Dumas and his powerful assistants create a domino effect, pushing all the characters into a spiral with no way out. Kyle Abbott, is he really doomed, or will there be a last-minute miracle to save him? Will Amanda choose to be loyal to Phyllis or protect herself from Dumas' overwhelming power? And finally, what will Victor Newman do to regain the initiative lost to those he once considered sacrificial pawns? Everything is still a big question mark, signaling a new series of turbulent days that are about to sweep Genoa City into the eye of an unprecedented storm of power and hatred in the city's history. The atmosphere of the first days of the year became dense with personal intrigues, complicated relationships and mixed emotions of hope and anxiety. Michael Baldwin, who was a rational, sober man and always behind Victor Newman's calculations, now fell into a rare state of confusion. Quitting Victor, a decision that seemed to only affect Michael himself, actually brought about a series of consequences that he himself could not have foreseen. Immediately after Michael made the decision to leave his position as Victor's personal lawyer, the entire upper class of Genoa City seemed to wake up to this shock. No one else but Victor was the one who was most upset and angry. In Victor's mind, betrayal from his confidants was always a deep and difficult-to-heal wound. He did not accept weakness or retreat from anyone, especially those he had once trusted with secrets, power, and the responsibility of protecting the interests of Newman Enterprises. The more Victor pursued Jack Abbott to corner his arch-rival, the more pressured Michael felt, fearing that things would spiral out of control. At times, Michael wondered whether he left to protect himself, or because he knew that if he continued to get involved, he would only sink deeper into the quagmire of endless intrigue, where the line between good and evil became increasingly blurred. Meanwhile, the atmosphere at the Newman mansion was also heating up day by day because of another important event, Nikki Newman's birthday. The organizer was Pietro, a rising figure, rumored to be the city's event master. Pietro promised Victoria Newman that he would organize a perfect birthday party for her mother, luxurious, sophisticated and without any mistakes. Victoria, amidst the hustle and bustle of family and corporate affairs, still hoped that a perfect day of joy would bring her mother some peace after so many stormy events. But as everyone knows, parties in the young and the restless universe never run smoothly. Behind the sparkling wine, the melodious music, and the flashy toasts, there are always secrets and hidden conflicts waiting to explode. And that seems to be truer than ever at Nikki Newman's birthday party. Even before the guests have had a chance to enjoy their first glass of wine, the undercurrents have begun to creep in. Kyle Abbott, caught between family loyalty and personal ambition, is preparing to make a big move, with Claire Newman secretly urging him on. Their plan initially seems solid, to use this event to create a big splash, while also proving to Victor that Kyle is more worthy of a position of power within the Newman Corporation, or at least a worthy opponent. But Claire, despite her gentle and delicate appearance, is actually a cunning person and not easily swayed by anyone's will. She understood that with just one small mistake in this plan, everything could turn around and turn Kyle into a sacrifice, the one who would have to bear the full wrath of Victor, a man who never tolerated those who challenged him. And just as Claire warned, Kyle's actions had accidentally touched Victor's final limit. His words, his uncontrolled decisions, and the pressure from Claire's expectations had pushed Kyle into a direct confrontation with Victor. Not only did Kyle not prove his ability as he wanted, Kyle was seen by Victor as a threat that needed to be eliminated, a dangerous rebel rather than a strategic ally. From that moment on, all paths back to Victor's trust were almost closed in front of Kyle, and Claire also began to show her intention to use Kyle as a pawn, ready to be discarded if things went as planned. Meanwhile, Audra Charles was secretly carrying out her own plan. For a long time, Audra had targeted Kyle as an important link in the chain of plots to conquer power in Genoa City. On the surface, she always made Kyle believe that he was the one who took the initiative, manipulated and controlled everything according to his will. But in reality, Audra was the one who controlled the game. She created sweet traps, leading Kyle into a spiral of secret meetings, promises and even intimacy that made Kyle vaguely think that he was the one with the power to decide. However, soon, signs of instability began to appear. Just when Kyle feels he has the upper hand, he stumbles upon evidence that Audra has been reporting his every move to another shadowy force, perhaps Victor, perhaps an even more dangerous rival than Victor or Jack. Kyle begins to fall into a state of confusion, suspicion, and bitter realization that he is nothing more than a prey being lured into the maze of power of Genoa City's smartest and most ambitious women. This awakening comes just as Nikki's birthday party spirals into chaos, as rumors, hidden arguments, and conspiracies spread like wildfire in an atmosphere already heavy with unsolved secrets. Outside the main party space, Michael Baldwin has yet to truly separate himself from his obsession with Victor Newman. Despite saying goodbye to his role as Victor's loyal lawyer, Michael cannot completely turn his back on what his former boss is capable of. He had a hunch that Victor would become more and more extreme, willing to use any means to destroy Jack Abbott, his old friend and lifelong rival. Michael began to fear that once Victor lost control, the fragile moral values he had tried to preserve for both of them would be swept away in a storm of blind revenge. The calls from Lauren, his understanding but also uneasy wife, only added to the pressure in Michael's heart. He wondered if he had made the right choice, staying out of every fight but at the same time helplessly watching the person he once respected slide further down the slope of power. Back at the center of the party, the event was reaching its climax when Nikki Newman was invited to give a speech. In the bright lights and endless applause, Nikki could still clearly feel the instability lurking around her. It was not only the feeling of a woman who had experienced too many events, but also the intuition of a mother and wife who always quickly grasped even the smallest changes in the family. Nikki was worried about Victoria, and about the instability that was spreading more and more within the Newman family. She also clearly felt the presence of outsiders like Kyle, Audra, Claire, people who were silently igniting new battles that Nikki herself was not sure she had enough power to prevent. In another corner of the party, Victoria Newman was still constantly observing the developments. Although she trusted Pietro's organizing skills, she could not hide her worries about the family's future, especially when she saw Victor's cold and determined eyes, the meaningful scrutiny between Claire and Kyle, or the soft but dangerous look from Audra. She knew that with just one small mistake, everything could fall apart in the blink of an eye. And then what had to come, came. When personal concerns and plots intersect, collide, and challenge each other, an inevitable chain of events explodes. Claire and Kyle, in their desire to assert their positions and make an impression, accidentally become the center of a new scandal. Their carefully prepared plan not only fails but also makes Victor hate Kyle more than ever. Words and actions are distorted, exaggerated, spread throughout the banquet halls like an invisible weapon aimed directly at the Abbott family. Meanwhile, Audra realizes that the opportunity has come, immediately using relationships and secret information to push Kyle into a dead end. Kyle is shocked to realize that all his confidence is just an illusion. He has just lost Victor's trust, and has become a pawn on the chessboard of power drawn by Audra and Claire. The shock forced Kyle to face the bitter truth: Genoa City was no place for dreamers, and if he didn't wake up, he would lose everything, including his self-esteem, his career, and his loved ones. When the party ended, all that remained was the echoes of a long and stormy night. Nikki, under the worried gazes of her loved ones, quietly left the party room, carrying with her the uncertainty about her family's future. Victoria quietly called Michael, hoping to receive advice from her old friend. Kyle, broken and alone, understood that he had entered a truly dangerous zone, where one wrong decision could wipe everything out in an instant. And outside, under the dim streetlights, Victor stood silently, watching the city. He knew that a new war had begun not only with Jack Abbott, but with his own family. And this time, Victor is determined not to let anyone, not even Michael, Kyle, or any traitors, stand in the way of his chosen path. Genoa City is preparing for a new cycle of turmoil, where every secret can be exposed, every scheme has its price, and only those strong, cold, and sober enough can survive and maintain their position in this never-ending game of power. Rarely has there been such a wave of curiosity, suspicion, and uncertainty as in recent days, when the name of Aristotle Dumas rang through the corridors of power, and rumors began to spread throughout the city. No one knew exactly who Dumas was, where he came from, and what his true intentions were. All that was left were metaphorical messages sent through secret channels, and a stifling atmosphere where every shadow could be part of a larger conspiracy. While the people of Genoa City were still talking, the key figures in the city center were busy with their own calculations. Amanda Sinclair, a talented and astute lawyer, received an unexpected and mysterious invitation from an unknown source, apparently directly or indirectly related to Dumas. It was a cryptic message, with no clear indication of its content or ultimate goal, only that Amanda would play a key role in spreading it throughout Genoa City. Amanda hesitated, knowing the dangers of getting involved with such characters. But curiosity and a sense of duty urged her to find out more, and she was even intrigued by the prospect of lifting the veil on Dumas's true identity. She began digging into her network of contacts, talking to people who had been implicated, asking Dumas's former associates, or those who had at least heard the name mentioned in secret meetings of the elite. Dumas, for his part, remained absolutely silent. He appeared and disappeared like a ghost, leaving behind only a trail of questions and wary glances. But despite his perfect secrecy, Dumas still seemed unable to avoid offending some of the city's most powerful people. There were wealthy businessmen who were offended when deals were suddenly cut off for no apparent reason. There were politicians who were nervous about anonymous letters and cryptic reminders sent to their private offices, as if someone knew their deepest secrets. Dumas's true identity remains a mystery to most Genoa City residents, but television viewers who have been closely following the developments have had plenty of hints, even strong hints that actor Billy Flynn will play Dumas, and more intriguingly, that the character may be a completely new version of Kane Ashby, a powerful ghost who once had great influence in Genoa City. This raises a wave of speculation. Could all this be just a warm-up for the return of one of the legendary figures, but this time in a new form, with much more dangerous and unpredictable schemes? Witness a grand game of chess, where identity, truth, and power are tugged by invisible hands. Dumas's cryptic message, whether real or fake, whether it comes from him or someone else, has done its job, pulling all the key players into a never-ending battle. When the last mask falls, who will be left standing, who will pay the price for their schemes, and who will truly control the future of Genoa City? All the answers lie ahead, in the next episodes, where the darkness is still not gone, and the truth is still too far away for all the participants in this game.